Welcome to the webinar today. I'm Erica. I will be the moderator for today. Today's webinar will take about 1 hour. 45 minutes will be the sharing sections and the remaining time for the Q&A. I'm glad that you are joining us today on our sharing topic, Alumni Sharing Series, My Path to Become a Clinical Psychologist as a Psychology Student. I'm sure this will be exciting sharing and you will understand more about the pathway to become a clinical psychologist. Let's not take too much time. I'm honored to have Mr. Tan Jong Yen with us today to share his story and experiences. Mr. Tan Jong Yen graduated from Bachelor of Social Science Honors Psychology at Utah Kampa campus in 2014. Since his graduation, he has continued pursuing his master's degree of clinical psychology in University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM. After completing his study, he has been working as a clinical psychologist for the 4th year now. And now, Mr. Tan is also the founder of Labyrinth Psychological Center. Well, Chong Yen actually is my friend, and I know him from Utah. Instead of doing a webinar today, I think it's more like catching up with my old friend. All right, without further ado, let's welcome Jong Yen.
All right, thank you, Erica, for the introduction. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jong Yen. I'm a clinical psychologist based in Johor Bahru currently. And I am the founder of Labyrinth Psychological Center, like what Erica had introduced earlier on. Yeah, very glad to be invited, and hopefully today's sharing can help you guys to understand better on what clinical psychology do and what you need to be prepared if you want to be a clinical psychologist in the future. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jong Yen. So, Jong Yen, let us know more about your journey after graduation. How did you decide to start up with Labyrinth Psychological Center?
All right, so I graduated from Utah in year 2014. So after my graduation from the bachelor degree, I was offered to further study at University Kebangsaan Malaysia in the same year. Okay, however, I decided to make a deferment from my study and work as a preschool educator at the time. And I rejoined or resumed my postgraduate study in year 2015. So after 2 years of this postgraduate study, I completed my master degree in year 2017. And I joined a private institution as a lecturer for about 3 years, teaching psychology, Bachelor of Psychology. So while providing or while teaching, okay, I actually I'm also a visiting clinical psychologist to several early intervention center around Johor, like for example in a speech therapy center in Batu Pahat, in an occupational therapy center in JB, and so on things. So all around the year, about 3 years, I have been working as a lecturer as well as a visiting clinical psychologist. And in year 2020, October in year 2020, I decided to start off my private practice after 3 years of teaching, as I noticed that I realized that I'm more into kind of like practicing as a clinical psychologist instead of like a more academician and kind of thing. So yeah, I start up my private practice at JB. So I also understand that people may want to know, what does a clinical psychologist do? So I'm trained in providing psychological assessment and also providing diagnosis, as well as providing evidence-based psychological interventions to individuals in need. Like for example, children with neurodevelopmental disorders, like we always hear people, children with autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or specific learning disorder. So as a clinical psychologist, we are trained in providing them with this assessment to understand the conditions of the child, and we will provide diagnosis if, let's say, the requirement is met, okay, the criteria is met, and also we provide this psychological intervention for the children. Apart from children itself, we also provide psychological, the social support or parental coaching to the parents in need, okay, because parents also may face parental stress when dealing with these children and kind of thing. So we also provide these services. So in addition to children cases, I also see clients ranging from adolescents to elderly who are experiencing emotional disturbance and psychological disorder. So apart from providing services in this assessment and also therapy, as a clinical psychologist, we are also trained in providing or to increase the mental health awareness in the public. So I also provide workshops, online sharing, and kind of thing to those in need or any organizers that they wanted to know more about mental health issues. So when I first started my private practice, what challenged me the most is in terms of financial, okay, because we all know, right, we have been impacted by this COVID-19 pandemic for about 2 years. Okay, so I decided to start off my private practice in October 2020, which is a kind of a challenging one. So I started to ease the financial difficulties here. I started off my private practice through a share space concept with my friends, which means that we rented a same office, but then we separated the office into two different usage. One is for my private practice, and the other one is office use for my friends. So this helps to reduce the overhead cost that I'm facing. And secondly is about the clientele. People will ask like, how do I get clients and kind of thing. So yeah, as a clinical psychologist, as a private practitioners, and you do not have a team here, I need to think of ways to introduce the services to as many people as possible. So what I did is that I start off with the Facebook page. So through the Facebook page, my aim is not to publicize my services, but it is more to psycho-educate the public, to raise the awareness of the public to understand better about the services or what is a clinical psychologist. So the Facebook page mainly used to share information on psychology and also the services provided as well. As Malaysia is impacted by the second wave, the third wave of COVID-19, the challenges have shifted because to ensure the safety of my clients and myself, most of the clients that I see are children cases whereby they require the face-to-face sessions. So in this case, it is very difficult for me to shift the sessions into teletherapy, which is the online services. So for children cases, many of them halted because of this requirement from the government. But then slowly when the situation is getting better, then parents start to bring in the child to see me face to face. And to overcome that situation also, I started to venture into online sessions, online services to provide psychotherapy through online for clients who are in need. But I noticed that many many clients may not prefer the online services as they might not find a safe space for them, as well as the space where they can actually have more privacy and confidential at home because many are working at home, right? So yeah, I do receive some clients who wants to have a online sessions, but then as compared to what I have face to face is a little bit less. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chong Yan. So the next questions, as a graduate from the psychology program, how much is it related to your job?
All right. So I believe that many people, when they hear, let's say the webinar today are attended by these psychology students, right? I think many of us will face the same problem when we tell people about psychology. Oh, I'm from psychology. Oh, I study psychology for my degree. People will have the first understanding is that, oh, so you know how to read my mind. So you know what I'm going to say, so you know what I'm going to feel or think and kind of thing. So, but then psychology is a program whereby you learn about understanding, extending humans' behavior, as well as applying the knowledge that you learn in psychology to improve life. So for example, during my study and during, I mean like the study that most of the students nowadays, okay, during the study in psychology, you'll be learning about different developmental stages of human. Like for example, from birth to elderly, the changes in terms of our cognitive, our biological, our physical, and also psychological changes in humans. We will learn about that. And this actually helps us to have a better understanding of the challenges that one may face at different stage of life. Like for example, when you are still a toddler, so what aspects are developing? So what are the challenges and how parents can actually help out the child? So when you are developed into childhood, when you are attending primary school or when you are teenager. Many people will tell you, right, oh, teenager, they are very rebellious. They want to go against the parents and kind of thing. They don't want to listen to parents and kind of thing. So what happened? How do we describe this behavior? Are they really rebellious? So if let's say from psychology, if we look into one of the theory, the psychosocial development by one of the psychologists, we call it Eric Erikson. So teenager stage, we are facing some issues here, which is the identity versus confusion. We want to seek for our own identity. We want to know who am I? What am I going to do in the future? So when we are facing these changes in life, right? There might be, if let's say we are unable to get a supportive environment from our parents, from our teachers, from our friends, we tend to go against them. All right. So this is where when we understand, when we learn the theory, when we apply the theory into describing the behaviors, we tend to help them to improve their life better. All right. So this is one of it, the psychosocial stages that when we learn about developmental psychology, we also learn about physiological psychology, okay, where how our bodies, the neurons, the nerve actually works together, how our brains control our emotions, control our movement, control our learning behavior, and so on thing. We also learn about cognitive psychology, okay, when we are paying attention, which part of our brain are playing a role. When we are talking, like right now, I'm sharing my experiences, which part of my brain are working. So all of these we tend to learn all of these during our psychology degree with a very basic understanding. And of course, one of my favorite or interest subject is abnormal psychology. How do we describe? How do we come to idea like is this a person's mentally sound or unsound? How do we determine whether the child is experiencing ADHD or autism and kind of thing? So we get to learn the symptoms, the criteria to differentiate. How do we differentiate between the disorders and non-disorders and kind of thing through the learning itself? So by attending all these courses, right, they help us to understand and explain how our minds and body actually works. And other than that, we also learned research methodology and also statistics during our degree. And this is a very important part in psychology because psychology is actually a science where we employ experiments to help us explain humans' behaviors. And later on, we use the findings in our practice. Okay, so research methodology and statistics help us to understand how do we carry out a research and how do we ensure that the research is truthful instead of full of flaws and kind of thing. And the practice of psychology rely a lot on the scientific findings as well. So we, after learning and we applied it, we tend to also contribute back to the field, and this helps the fields to grow. And hence the ability to carry out the quality research is also very important in psychology. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chong Yan. And I believe our participants here are very curious. Why did you choose to become a clinical psychologist? Was this something that you have aimed for? And would you mind to share with us like how to become a licensed or registered clinical psychologist?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Erica, for the questions. I believe many, I do receive quite a number of questions regarding to why do I choose a clinical psychologist and kind of thing. I think many students here, I'm not sure, maybe I'm just overgeneralized. Okay. Uh, Personally, I started to venture into psychology. I think more or less is because of my past experience. So I watched too many of the. I was exposed to many of the dramas when I was younger. So because I'm from Johor, so I watch Singapore channels more than those Malaysia's channel. So there is one time I remember I actually watched a drama is more to related to abnormal psychology kind of thing. So they exposed me about psychology, psychiatry, and kind of thing. So I started to get interested to kind of understanding why people sometimes behave differently and what happened to them. And from my understanding, people may meet a lot of this stigma or bully and kind of thing. So I also like to help out people. Okay, I was a Leo Club members, I was a St. John members and kind of thing. So I like this charity work and kind of thing. So this come into my mind like, okay, what can I do to help people in this area? So yeah, I think of becoming a psychiatrist. I think of becoming a psychiatrist. But after my SPM, I decided to choose to further study in STPM. So after completing my STPM, which is the Form 6, I realized that my result doesn't allow me to pursue study in MBBS, okay, which is to become a doctor. So I start to explore online to see, okay, so if I couldn't be cannot be a psychiatrist, what else can I do? So while searching online, I came across the term clinical psychologist. So I did try to look further what is a clinical psychologist and what does a clinical psychologist do and kind of thing. I start to notice that, oh, okay, so there are many similarities between a psychiatrist and clinical psychologist. Okay, for example, the population that we serve, we are looking into people, we are trying to serve those people who are experiencing mental disorders and kind of thing. So another one difference is that to become a psychiatrist, you need to become a medical doctor before you specialize into psychiatrist. So I noticed that I couldn't really go for MBBS because of my result. So there is one more way out for me to serve this population of people, which is to become a clinical psychologist. And similar to becoming a psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist is actually a specialized branch after your psychology degree. So I noticed that, okay, maybe I can go for psychology. So that is where I actually venture into psychology with the aim to become a clinical psychologist in the future. Okay, so yeah, and happened to be when I was studying in Utah, I met one of my lecturer. Okay, sometimes I call him senior because he also is my senior in clinical psychology. So I met him in my last semester or second last semester, so I had talked with him and I understand his experience, how he actually started his journey in postgraduate and style of things. So he encouraged me to make the application and kind of thing. So yeah, that is where I start out making application and finally got a position of enrollment. Yeah. So many people also ask like how to become a practicing clinical psychologist in Malaysia. So this is a very important thing which I would like to share today, which is to become a clinical psychologist, right? In Malaysia, I'm speaking on behalf of Malaysia. I'm not speaking on overseas countries. In Malaysia, you need to complete at least a postgraduate degree at master level. Okay, and this master level postgraduate usually will take 2 years. It's a 2 years top courses with clinical practicum, meaning that throughout the study of 2 years, you will have experience to venture into clinical practices like private centers or government settings. Okay, so upon your graduation, because you have this clinical practicum, right? So you will have a logbook to record down the number of hours that you have received your training and practices. So upon graduation, you may want to register yourself with the Malaysian Society of Clinical Psychology. Okay, this is a professional association. So as a MSCP member, okay, this refers that the individual had met the minimum requirement. Okay, met the minimum requirement to be able to practice in Malaysia. Okay, but then this MSCP, the association doesn't have the power to determine or provide licensing and kind of thing. But then a clinical psychologist is also one of the 23 professionals listed in this Allied Health Profession Act 2016. Okay, this act was gazetted in 2016, and I think it will soon be kind of like enforced. So when this Allied Health Act started to be enforced, okay, every clinical psychologist will need to be registered under this act to get the license and also the practicing cert. Okay, so the licensing and registration practicing cert things will be announced later when this act is enforced. If I'm not mistaken, will be in these few years time. Okay, but then if you want to kind of like know whether the service provider is met this minimum requirement or not, you may want to check from this MSCP directory to identify whether the service provider had achieved the minimum requirement. Okay, at least now the professional associations are actually governing. Okay, they will help you to identify who had received the minimum requirement, who hadn't, who have not received that. Yeah, so this is currently what the licensing and the things about. Yeah.
Thank you, Chong Yan, for the sharing. All right. As I understand, you are actively joining events and activities during your academic year in Utah. So this is where we met each other during Utah, right? So how did you balance out your studies and your time in events?
Yeah, that's where we met. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we met in this community service society, one of the events. Is it a 3O project, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, participating in extracurricular activities during my university life is indeed the most wonderful memory I had ever. Okay, well, while talking about this, I think my I don't know, suddenly I feel a little bit touched by myself. Yeah, I had joined several events organized by, for example, Community Service Society as a committee member, and this is where I met Erica and many other people. And I was also a president for Psychologist Society back then, where we organize activity like, for example, visiting hospital Bahagia Ulu Kinta, okay, which is the psychiatric hospital that time. So during that time, I was busy organizing events and study, and this helped me to improve my time management, like how I organize my time for attending meetings, liaising with the people in the events and kind of thing. So, but I realized that, okay, when I was thinking back, many of our activities, we started either early of the semester or end of the semester, meaning that our preparation most likely will in between this semester break and kind of thing. So yeah, I think many of us, we know that during the study, the 14 weeks per semester, we are all going to be very busy. So our event, our this proposal and kind of thing will start even earlier. Like during the same break, we start preparing all the necessary document and kind of thing. So when the semester starts, we just need to run it. And after running, we have a postmortem and that's all. So we can focus on our study. And I'm also grateful, like for example, I have a group of very supportive friends, as well as very supportive kind of like team member and organizing team and kind of thing. We all understand that we all have priority in between event and study. So all of us help out each other a lot. And this is how I actually kind of like managed to overcome the hectic period during that time. Yeah, and also one thing I think need to be mentioned is that because Utah provide the students the autonomy to schedule their own timetable every semester, we need to beat the timetable. If Erica still remember, you need to be ready on your in front of your laptop and snatch the timetable. So one thing that I did is that I know if I got a lot of activities to do, so planning to do. I will schedule my timetable so that I may focus study on maybe like on Monday to Thursday. So at least Friday I'm free. So Friday I can do my assignments, I can focus the time for my events and kind of thing. So there is a flexibility there for me to actually arrange my time. So yeah, I think that is one thing that helped me a lot during my degree.
Okay, thanks for the sharing and recall back many memories. And okay, so as you are born and raised in Batu Pahat, Johor, what made you choose to come the way to Kampar, and why you choose Utah?
Okay, Utah my choice. Okay, to be frankly speaking, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of research during I do a lot of search online, trying to understand like which university is providing psychology. To be frankly speaking, I applied for government university, but I know also that because of a lot of things, many factors, I may not get the choice that I want. So I started to explore private institution. So first of all, the reason that I choose Utah is because I noticed that the courses provided by Utah are accredited by this MQA. So it's similar if you compare to other university, most of them have the course accredited. So what comes to my second consideration is the fees and also the cost of living. because I'm a twin. You see, my brother and we need to kind of like enter college life together. So I need to be considerate a bit like for my family financial. So when I come to compare it, I noticed that Utah is providing affordable fee for the accredited cost. You see, the cost is accredited, and I compare the cost of living. I noticed that the cost of living in Kampa, Utah, in Utah Kampa is more kind of like comfortable for me. You see, I don't have to spend a lot for my rental. I don't have to spend a lot for my meals and kind of thing, as compared to if I'm going to study in big cities, like for example KL. Okay, the cost of living can be higher, and together with some of the private institutions, the fees may be higher, and that will make me feel uncomfortable. And I don't want myself to be worrying about financial instead of focusing on my study. So this is some of the reasons for me to kind of like choose Utah. And then many people may ask like, oh, Utah is so far, Kampao. How do you manage to get your what is that called? Our accommodation, like hostels and kind of thing. So while doing research also, okay, I noticed that Utah's website is kind of like convenient and friendly for students from outstation. In terms like for example, you want to look for a room to rent. Prior to this, no Facebook. We do not much on Facebook. Like we have this Utah Kampa rent or kind of thing, those page for you to go. But nowadays we got more lah. But last time I used to go online and search, and Utah actually provide this list, the list of rooms for rent in the website. So my friend and I got the information easily from the website, and we start to kind of like contact the owners and kind of thing. And yeah, we managed to find the rooms before we arrived and start studying in Utah. So everything was kind of like convenient for us. And while studying 3 years there, I started to like the environment even more. You can see from Erica's background, you can see a lake, a buildings, a mountain and kind of thing. So it is very relaxing, you know, sometimes after study for a whole day, right? In the evening, you can cycle around with your friends, you can look at the sunset, you can enjoy the breeze. Although there are times where Kampa is very, very, very hot lah. But then other than the very hot weather, right, I think other things are all very comfortable. And because it located far from big cities, you don't have to experience traffic jam. This is one of the things that I enjoy the most. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's true. Okay, so before we move to Q&A sections, is there any advice from you to your junior here at Utah and those secondary school students who are interested in psychology program?
Yeah, okay. So one thing is that some people may think that, oh, if I study psychology, I don't have to do mathematics, because some people may not be very good in mathematics. I don't think myself is very good in mathematics as well. But then a very sad truth, which is you couldn't run away from mathematics even though you are studying in psychology. Like I mentioned earlier on, you're going to touch about statistics, you're going to look into research methodology. All of these have some relations to mathematics here. So don't think that you can run away from mathematics by joining a psychology program. Okay, it is a must. And as for students from secondary school who wish to further study in psychology, okay, if you are still in Form 4, Form 5 and kind of thing, as I worked as a lecturer before, I understand the requirement by MQA. This is across Malaysia. All institutions providing psychology program, okay, there are some minimum requirements for your SPM or even your UEC. The most important thing is that you need to obtain a minimum pass in your English, science, and mathematics. You need to get these 3 subjects passed in your SPM if you're really interested to join psychology. Or even in UEC, if I'm not mistaken, in UEC, you need to have these subjects, mathematics, English, and science. Okay, and one more thing is that if you want to pass your SPM, you need to pass your Sejarah and PM. Yeah, this is the basic minimum requirement that you need to be aware of if you want to study in psychology. And this, like I mentioned earlier on, this minimum entry requirement is across Malaysia, as all of the accredited program, they follows the MQA's requirement. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chong Yan. Okay, thank you, Chongyan, for your advice and beneficial sharing. I hope everyone here have a clearer picture on how to become a clinical psychologist after Chongyan's sharing. If you have any further questions regarding the program offered in Utah, you may reach us at study.edu.my/cm or Utah or Facebook Utah for You, WeChat UtahNet, and these are the hotline number and email address. So if you have any questions to ask Mr. Tan, okay, so you can reach Mr. Tan, find this email address to reach Mr. Tan. And also this is the Facebook page name. You may screenshot of it or you can take a picture of this slide to reach Mr. Tan later. All right, I think that's all for today. And thank you so much, Chongyan, for the sharing. Bye, everyone.